There we go. Okay, so that should work for audio. See if we can maybe take this down a little bit. Does that work, Ben? Perfect. Yeah, I redid a bunch of stuff to try to get to try to make sure that OBS wasn't going to take over my computer again. Um, let's get rid of Docker too. Docker doesn't need to be running. So yeah, I said, "Hey Ben, how's it going?" I'm also trying scaled desktop today, so I'm running on my 4K monitor, but um, I'm doing like the one of the biggest scalings that you can use. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully that'll just make all the text and stuff be big enough by default. But where are we? Yarn build. So I'm assuming that the problems that Kent is running into is definitely MDX related. So I'm not even really checking to see if it's anything else. I'm just going to check the total build. See if we can get these numbers down a little bit. So I'm not actually sure that we need to do a whole lot of profiling. I know that I sent out a tweet asking sort of what the state of the art in like Node.js profiling was. And there's a couple interesting things here. Andrew's trolling me with console log. NDB, I think I used a previous incarnation of. Clinic, I have never heard of, but kind of looks nice. All the examples are for like a running server though, so we'll see. This is a tool that I have never heard of, but it looks like it's the same person in this video, so maybe this is a tool that is used inside of Clinic. And then there's NDB, which is Chrome Dev Tools, basically, for a node. So image thumbnails we probably don't care about performance-wise, because there's nothing that we can do from the MDX side of things to affect your image thumbnail generation speed. So we're probably going to want to rerun this, I think. Not seeing any major slowdown in the build. So like, yeah, generating image thumbnails is time consuming. And takes a long time, and you always want to sort of like either get that done or ignore that for development. The gatsby.org site has an environment flag that will turn off the because they actually call out to a lambda every time they generate an image thumbnail, which is wild and takes a while. So I'm anticipating the problems here being that MDX is sort of reprocessing too much because we don't really cache a lot yet. And yeah, that's kind of a problem. So we do have a caching PR open right now. unfortunately the tests aren't passing, and I think that is the fault of like some dependency issue, not actually the PR. Okay, so contentful is never passing right now because the contentful extension has some issues with it. But the gatsby-mdx doc site should definitely pass. And this, I usually only see this if you're like double processing MDX files, which is weird. So maybe we'll take a look into that. Production JavaScript, static HTML. But yeah, this PR actually looks kind of fine. I just need to pull it and run it and see if it works. This wrappers location isn't a variable we use anywhere anymore. That was the old, like, when we used to take your MDX files and wrap them in a higher order component and then write them back out. Okay, so we were at 300 seconds for the build. Static HTML takes 8 seconds. There's not really 30 seconds for building the JavaScript bundle, which isn't MDX related. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with the build performance of MDX from what I can see here. So the issue has to be in develop. Hey Bepasama, how's it going? He doesn't have develop. What does he use? Start. Gatsby serve port. Nope. Yarn dev. Yeah, no, I was having trouble with OBS for a while. And it was sort of like tanking my computer about 5 to 10 minutes into every stream that I did. But
I'm not sure.
But I think we're good now. So we'll see. So yeah, queries. Running GraphQL queries might be a so do some performance stuff for gatsby-mdx. Kent sent out a tweet that was basically like he's kind of getting fed up with the performance. Loves the project, hates the performance, which is totally cool. He says it's taking forever to build HMR, etc. I just checked build, and build doesn't seem to be much of an issue. The biggest thing for performance is the image thumbnails. So, I mean, there's not much we can do from the MDX side about that. The GraphQL queries might be MDX related, but it's, I can say, 30 seconds. So 4 and 5 queries a second, basically, which, I mean, isn't amazing. We could probably get that up. But still, like, 30 seconds is not a huge amount of time. I'm mostly concerned about the hot module reload performance. So I'm going to go and see. I need to take one of these. Super simple start to serverless. This is his most recent post. I need to find it in his blog. My volume's a little low. Okay, I'll turn it up. I turned it. Oh, okay, so I turned it down because I thought it might have been too loud, but it's back up. Yeah, I'm looking at performance issues specifically in gatsby-mdx relating to hot module reloading when you are editing blog posts. So I don't know where he keeps his content. Blog and writing blog. I don't know what the difference is there. What is this one called? Super simple start to serverless. So let's go to the index. Cool. Is the font size in my editor good too? Not that it really matters what I'm typing over here, but let's see. So the last little bit I've been doing fair amounts of stuff, and then we'll save that to okay. So either that is not even reloading at all. Oh wow, that is really bad. Dang. Yeah. Bit on the small side, okay. Well, I think I can do this. Yeah, so the hot reload here is really small. And I think what Kent does is he writes his blog posts here. So like this taking that long, the font is reasonable for me. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that took that long to reload, and that is completely unacceptable. Also, there seems to be another issue with its site, but that is unrelated. So let's see what version he's on. 4.2, I think the latest is like 4.3, so that's good. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really matter that much because we didn't do any performance work in 4.2 and 4.3. Yeah, so my assumption is that the actual problem is not the hot module reloading logic, because the logic is working, right? So it hits the page and it refreshes. The issue is how much time it's taking to get to the point where we're sending the update to the browser, which to me indicates that we're doing entirely too much work inside of gatsby-mdx. Which is, and we don't have like the caching, so at least I think that's the issue. I'm going to start putting some debug logs in here and see if that is actually true. One of the things that I do need to do, so there's a couple of things I want to check. One of the things I want to check is if when we make a change, if it just rebuilds that one file or if it rebuilds like the entire site of files. Because if it rebuilds the entire site of files, that could be an easy fix. You can see that all of this work that the site is doing right now is gatsby-mdx related. So if we add caching here, I think the entire site build will speed up. So let's refresh this. Let's take this and take a view of the terminal at the same time, and we'll update that. Yeah, okay, there's the problem. You see that? You see how many times we're running MDX? We have to be running it on every, wow, that is really bad. So this might be an easy, an easy stream. Yeah, it's definitely gatsby-mdx. The schema refactor is causing issues? Really? Is the schema refactor causing like errors, or is it causing slowdowns on people's sites? The schema refactor is really cool, and I want that to stay. Okay, well, I don't think we actually need to use Kent's site to debug this anymore. I think we can do this in the gatsby-mdx repo. Build slowdowns, that stinks. Okay, so we're on the 0.5 branch. So 0.5 is the branch that I'm using to track 1.0 of MDX. So I think we're just going to swap off of it, and then I'll update that branch later. Let's make sure we got everything installed. But yeah, so we confirmed the problem, which is basically that when you make an edit, it redoes all of the files. Off the top of my head, I can't think of why that is. There are sort of two things that I can think of that would be useful here. One of them is that we need to add caching to gatsby-mdx anyway. So we can add caching to the generation of the ASTs and stuff inside of gatsby-mdx. And when we do that, it should just speed up everything, even if you're hitting all of them anyway. And the other thing is that we should really only be doing the work of one. We should really only be doing the work to redo a single file. So I'm not sure why everything is triggering. But we're gonna... Hey Arshik, how's it going? Might as well tweet this link out now that the stream seems stable. Which is exactly when the stream is going to go down, obviously. Life is going good. gatsby-mdx is having some struggle bus issues with the amount of work that it wants to do. Gatsby cache builds, or like, will Gatsby run in any event-based way? I'd like to use a headless CMS and run Gatsby builds when the data changes, but only build files that are different. You're referring to a feature that will eventually come into Gatsby called incremental builds. I personally don't know a lot about that feature, when it'll happen, what the state of it is, or things like that. Yeah, but there's sort of like a incrementally, there's two things. One is that Gatsby is actually launching some products around being able to take webhooks from other places and give you previews, which is super cool. And then there's something else, which is incremental builds, which will happen at some point, and I have no idea when that's happening. But currently, all you get is the cache folder. So if you can put it in the cache folder, then yes, it'll cache between builds. If you can't put it in the cache folder, it will not. But Gatsby will basically rebuild the entire site unless you put caching in manually. So where are we? So it's got to be an on node create, right? So yarn workspace. So there's a cache folder, but I can go back to Kent's because we already have one. So we just ran Kent's develop site, right? And there's a folder here called .cache, and .cache has a crap ton of files in it. And in fact, inside here there will be a gatsby-mdx file that has a bunch of scope stuff for gatsby-mdx. So if you can put stuff in here, then you can check if those files exist and things like that, and then technically cache it, right? And a bunch of things do things this way. But the sort of like incremental building that you're talking about isn't coming for a while. It never gets deleted automatically. It does get deleted for a bunch of cases, but there's also a bunch of cases where it doesn't. So I end up doing something like this whenever I'm working on stuff. But I also work on really weird stuff, so I don't know actually how often that problem happens in user land. Let's do kitchen sink, because I think kitchen sink has the most MDX files. Cool, that's good, that works. This is like the ancient emotion starter that I used when I first started building this project. Let's get rid of this stuff because we don't need it. And let's get a kitchen sink, contents, like, I don't know, we'll do the most basic one. Right, and then there's, so this is the thing, right? I'm gonna run this with debug. So that we can see everything. I did get a green screen. I got it right around the time that my OBS work started crapping out, so unfortunately I haven't been able to use it for a while, but yeah. Okay, cool. So we're up, we're in, and now I just want to like test to see what happens here. So this is good. The reason that I swapped from Kent's site to the gatsby-mdx examples is because I have far less MDX files. Didn't go with an incremental build approach from the beginning. Hey Kent, how's it going? So we figured out what the actual problem with the HMR is. So if you look, when I do this and make an update, it's reprocessing all of the files. So that's a fairly large and fairly hopefully easy to fix thing, and then your HMR will be fine again. I haven't really dug into actually why that's actually happening, but that doesn't seem like a technically hard issue to solve. So let's go into, yeah, so there's basically two ways that we can think about solving this. One of them is just adding caching for all of these runs. And if we add the caching for the runs, then actually when we go to run it, it won't do anything. Which could help, but the one that I'm more interested in is trying to get it to only process one of them when you make a change in one file. Yeah, seriously. Well, also this is a problem. I don't know if it's all of the problems, but we'll start with this. So in Gatsby we have an onCreate node, or in gatsby-mdx we have an onCreate node, and this onCreate node, make this bigger for everybody. This onCreate node, I think, is what's getting called over and over. This is an MDX-sided issue for sure. Kent is always so supportive of everybody. That's awesome. Let's see. So the logs tell us that the first thing it tries to do is process classic front matter. I know that Kent is using the like the create page support and not the page plugin support. So it's not running through the MDX loader, it's running through the GenMDX utility. The GenMDX utility is right here. So if we look for the debugs, you see that we get the processing classic front matter, generating AST, running MDX, compiling scope, and that's what we see here. So front matter, AST, MDX, scope. It's interesting that it happens completely for one file and then does everything else in seemingly whatever order it feels like. But if we do this, then we will get rid of all of these compiling scopes. And then the other thing is that the compiling scope is something that we need to make some changes to too. Yeah, it jumps. Yeah. And like it's not an issue on this small site, because if I save this, it just like sort of updates. Where's the not page? Right. But on Kent's site, he has so many posts that he goes through all of them and reprocesses all of them. So I think adding caching here is the right move. I know that there's a good example of how to set up this caching in the remark transformer. It's going to be in here. Yeah, so there's cache.set. Feels good, man. Yeah. So there's cache.set, and I don't work a lot with the cache object, so I need to sort of look at the docs if I can find some. Debugging cache issues. Hey look, RMRF cache. This isn't the page we want though. Dot cache, using the cache. So this is in creating a transformer plugin, which is much more likely to be what we want. And this is actually the exact example that I just went to in the code. Cache keys should at least contain the content digest of the concerned. Of the concerned what? The concerned. For example, the Gatsby transformer remark uses the following cache key for the HTML node, and that uses the internal content digest of the node itself, which is interesting. I think that's what we want anyway for all of them, and that'll solve our current issue. So there's cache.set and cache.get, which is just like a get and a set, I guess. And I don't know if that writes out to disk or not, so we'll find out. But we have cache here. So what we need to do is set up. So with the thing I was talking about, the schema refactor, Ward fixed it, nice. Well, I hope he did. The schema was looking at strings and checking if it were dates. Ah, that's dope. See you, Ken. Thanks for coming in. So let's see. So we have this object, which I'm using for caching, quote unquote. I wonder if the easiest way to do this is to just cache this object at the end, because we have to do all the processing again anyway. So instead of actually like doing a lot of caching for each of these individual steps, which we could do, and would probably help even more, I think to test this out, the thing that we can do is something like this. Let's do const payload cache key. Yeah, history objects are interesting. You've looked at the Reach router and the React router history libraries? Oh. So we'll do gatsby-mdx entire payload. I don't know. We must have the node here, so I'll just use the internal content digest. That makes sense. Plugins cache string and path prefix cache string both make no sense to me. Oh, that's got to be the remark plugins that are applied to the ASTs. And the path prefix cache string must be if you change the path prefix, because it does link modification. So maybe I should just take that code from here. Okay, so that's fine. We'll do this. Path prefix or empty string, that's cool. Plugins cache string. We have the plugins somewhere in here, I believe. Or gatsby-mdx has a lot more plugin types than anything else. So I think to like try and see if this works, I'll leave that for now. And we'll just ignore the fact that like if you add a plugin, you will have to restart your Gatsby develop anyway. So What is safe get cache? Get cache ID. If not get cache, return cache. If otherwise, get cache ID. I don't know what that is. Get cache is possible. Get cache. I wonder if get cache is just a deprecated API, because that's what it looks like. Yeah, I think we can just use cache.get and cache.set for this. And if it doesn't work, then we can go back and figure it out. So let's do this. We're going to take this payload function. We'll define at the top. After the payload, so that we can, or after the path prefix, so that we can include that too. Do you do any front? Yeah, I'm familiar with styled system, very familiar. I don't really use rebase, but thanks for the follow, Unseen, NRG. Unseen, because you're us presumably lurking in chat and not saying anything. Yeah, so cached HTML isn't what we want. We want cached payload because we're doing this entire object. Just got the node here. This is going to be the payload cache key. And there's got to be a check to see if we have this, right? So I'm going to go check to see what this is doing. Cache.get, cache.asc. If there's nothing there, it'll be undefined. Dope. So if cached payload and that will be that. And down here, when we're done with everything, we will cache.set. I think we need to reuse that. Cache.set. I forgot what I called that function already. Payload cache key. Nice node. Okay. Payload cache key node. Trying to roll out my own version of style system because I'm trying to get more familiar with TypeScript and thought it would be good practice. Style system is really cool. It is. Two things that you'd like fixed. Don't like that they're index based because you can change, add or remove values that can mess things up. Yeah, typically I don't change my scales very often, but I totally understand that. You can use objects and names instead of index scales as well. So if you prefer like words like small, medium, and large for your font sizes, you can do that. Cache that's yeah, I mean it's just objects, right? So you can do whatever you want. And worst case scenario, if you can't get that to work, just file an issue on the styled system repo. You can mention me if you want and things like that. I'm sure that Jackson would be open to that kind of thing, though. Yeah, so I think we wrote all the code that we need to write here, actually. At least to make sure that this is the actual issue. Either that or this will completely break, and yay. Nothing like doing it on a live stream. Let's see. So this is the file up here. Maybe I can move this so that we can see the, there we go. So I'm going to save this. I'm expecting exactly one occurrence of all of the reprocessing to happen. All right, so that works. That was the issue. I actually think that was Kent's entire issue. But let's find out. I think I can link this around. Packages, gatsby-mdx. Yarn link. I really don't like using yarn link, generally speaking, or npm link or anything like that. Okay, and second is more of a style components issue or a motion, depending on what you use. Theme providers wrap each style component in a hawk. Isn't that an inefficient way to go about it, though? I want to practice hooks along with TypeScript, and I gave a shot at building my own theme provider that implements the use context hooks instead. Yeah, so if you're using a motion, I highly suggest sort of using your own theme provider. Like, it's really easy to just React create context, throw some tokens in there, and then use that via hooks. It's the approach that we have to take for all of the Gatsby theme work, because we can't use the global sort of like, so if a user in their site imports theme provider and they have their own tokens for their own site, and then they decide to use a random Gatsby theme, for example, and that Gatsby theme also uses theme provider, you can stomp out the user's values, and that's bad, right? Like, as a theme that's meant to be used with other pieces of code that you don't have control over, you have to be more compatible with like the ecosystem. So the best way to do that is to sort of write your own context and then have the tokens be configured via the theme config, and then you get to use hooks to access your own theme values, and then they don't conflict and you don't stomp over anybody else's code. So yeah, I highly suggest that generally as an approach, especially with emotion, because the emotion theming stuff with the v10 isn't as important. Also, with respect to styled API, the styled APIs aren't really what I prefer to use. I prefer to use the CSS prop, because it scales much better from sort of like writing one-off lines of styles all the way to like your full design system. Cool. So yarn link, gatsby-mdx. And then let's open this file again, because I think that's the one that we're going to need. And we will do the debug here. So if everything goes well, this should give us most of the benefits that we will need. I'll probably go back off stream and add caching to each individual gatsby-mdx line or position in this sort of oh man, did I do something really bad? Okay. Unexpected token. Okay, let's see what we have in the node modules for gatsby-mdx. Let's do... Okay, so it is a symlink, I think. Which is what we want it to be. Oh man, I really dislike yarn linking for this purpose. So I just removed the cache. I'll see if that fixes our processing issue. Because that issue is something that I've seen come up sort of when dependencies are sort of out of whack. And it's not really an MDX issue, it's more of a like yarn linking issue. Okay. So yarn unlink gatsby-mdx. And then we can go over here and we'll... Where's our package? There we go. So we're on 0.4.3, but I can do a... I think I can do a 0.4. I already did a 0.5, so it might not let me, but... Packages. I'm already in here down there, so I'll do this. Hey, is that Stefan? Steven? Something like that. Stefan. Thanks for the follow. What's the difference between Gatsby themes or using starters or just cloning some code from GitHub? Gatsby starters are the same as just cloning some code from GitHub. It's just an easier way to download them. Because what Gatsby new does is it goes and it git clones the starter and then brings it in and then you just start using it. So it's the same thing as doing a git clone. Gatsby themes can be packaged up as npm packages and distributed so that other people can use them. For example, see if I remember how to, there we go. WP Gatsby themes. This is getting started with, maybe this will have a pointer to it. No. Should be able to find it on Twitter. Yes. What am I looking for here? WKey Gatsby theme. I believe this is it. Okay. So for example, this group of people is porting the WordPress themes over to Gatsby. Oh, it launched. Yes. Perfect. I'm going to talk about that right now. I didn't realize that got merged today. Yes. Okay, so if you really want to know about themes, go to gatsbyjs.org/docs/themes, and you can read some of the documentation that's in progress. Oh, I'm really excited this got merged. Themes! So yeah, if you are interested in what themes are compared to everything else, then go find it. We aren't really like, it's not linked in the sidebar, so you have to actually probably type in gatsbyjs.org/docs/themes. If you didn't follow that very well, I think this has a gatsbyjs.org blog post as well, but Jason has a live stream. There's no navbar link to the starters. I don't know why there's no navbar link to the starters. I thought there was. Tutorial, plugins, features. That's interesting. I guess there's one over here. I don't know. But also where MDX is in the sidebar. Yeah. So this is all the documentation for gatsby-mdx actually, because we're gonna move the repo into the Gatsby mono repo at some point. But yeah, so if you didn't understand my talk as well, Jason Lengstorff and John Otender did a wonderful live stream, and it takes you through basically everything that you would want to know about themes as of the time that it was recorded. Going doc starters is really unintuitive. Yeah, I mean, if you file an issue about that on the Gatsby repo, you could probably get somebody to do something about it, or at least get a reason why that doesn't happen today. But we are going to publish, so actually, all of our changes. So our changes aren't really that deep. They're just like path prefix string, get a path prefix string from the node. If we have it in the cache, return it. If we don't have it in the cache, set it in the cache. So to get a CI build out of this, I'll push that up. Go to app. Hopefully I'm logged in. Okay. And now I'm going to stream the streaming build. Sounds like Jason's going to do another themes live stream in the near future. Yeah, he's going to do a live stream with Greg, I believe. If I can find it. You follow each other. That's so nice of you, Jason. This one. So Greg brought up some great points in the open source call this morning. And I believe that Jason is going to take some of that and go through it with him on the live stream, while we take sort of his feedback and turn it into more documentation and things like that. Yeah, no, I've definitely watched that maintainers meeting after y'all had it. Yarn install taking a while on the build. So really what this is going to do is we have a publish, oh, what did I do? This looks like there are snapshot issues because of the version of Gatsby or MDX that we use. So let's do this. Yeah, you should give streaming a try. It's a lot of fun, actually. Okay, cool. MDX renderer. What is going on there? Okay, so the jest test for MDX renderer is failing because it doesn't like JSX for some reason. I wonder if I did something weird and screwed that up. In the meantime, snapshots for the loader I think are fine, so I'm just going to add those in. Yeah, so if I don't run in the tests from the root of the repo, then that other jest thing happens, which is weird, but workable. Thanks. I hope that this is actually going to get published now. We're going to see if it works on Kent's site. But have a good night, Beb. Nice. What do you... yeah, I saw you tweeting about that, actually. Are you enjoying the sort of like side project? There we go. Cool. So yeah, we have a published script in gatsby-mdx. Right here. So every time we merge to master, it goes out as the CI build. Which is 0.4.2 CI 318 right now, but it will be like 0.4.3 or 4 CI when this build goes through. So I also have workflows set up to handle this on Circle CI. So the only thing that could fail right now is I've already published a 0.5 that works with 1.0 under the next tag. So there could be something funky there. Hey Atiks, how's it going? Yeah, you dropped 20 different ideas in the last year or so. Well, I'm glad you found something that you actually want to stick with. So we can actually go to Kent's. It looks like this published. 4.4-CI 325. Just got an email notification that it did in fact publish. So I'm going to upgrade Kent to the CI version. Ati. So how's it going, Ati? Yeah, if you're going to open source it, I highly encourage you to do it sooner rather than later. Thanks for the follow, Mawif. Let's see. So that did that. We're CI. So I will run yarn again just to make sure that we have everything working, and then we'll do the debug. Thanks for the follow, Ati. Yeah, for sure. Feel free to ask me. Billion open source. Yeah, feel free to ask me about anything that you want to ask me about. Cool, so are we good here? We did a bunch of processing. Yeah, the other thing that the debug flag does for gatsby-mdx is dump all the code out. Okay, cool. So this is going to be our test. Here's Kent's face. And then this is the file that we need to edit. And we'll just remove this. And that is dramatically faster. So it's still not like amazingly fast. But that is like, before it was taking us, what, like, and we're only doing the single processing now. So let's make sure that this still, if I do this, I'm going to hit save now. 2, 3, 4. So like just under 4 seconds to get there. Last time before we did this fix, it took so long that I stopped counting because I thought the hot module reload was actually broken. So from like 20 something seconds down to like 3 to 4. I'm pretty happy with that, especially on a site as large as Kent's. So I'm going to publish this as the next release. More open source maintainers who stream, then I can follow them too. Yeah, I don't have a list of them sitting here, but a bunch of them actually also follow me on my stream. Jason Lengstorff is one of them, who's pretty dope. He does a bunch of more Gatsby stuff, so if you're into JavaScript, he streams. He does like stream once a week, which is pretty in depth. Oh yeah, Nikita. I forgot that. Sarah streams too. And then the other person who does a lot of streaming and actually has a very active community is Nucat or Suze. I just downloaded this app to see this. How do I follow someone? I don't know how you do it on the app. Does anybody? Yeah. You mod for the both of them? Nice. Yeah, cool. So I'm super happy with the way that we ended up with this code here. So what I'm gonna do is publish this as an actual release. Just a heart icon on the video. And then we're good, right? We're at 3, so yarn publish. Yeah, fall. Thank you for the follow, Edelman. I see that you found the the follow button on the mobile app. Cool, so I'm gonna push tags, go back to Kent's site and re-upgrade him to like a normal version instead of I don't think a heart icon is for following. Well, he did find a button somehow, somewhere. So I don't know if it's the heart or not. Cool, so we've upgraded him. And it's really interesting how much of a delay there is on that notification, because I get it in my email like immediately. Yeah, so GCO be aid, or actually not just upgrade, but like cool. And then I can actually, while we're here, before I actually send this off as a PR, let's do this one more time. I know nothing changed between when I published and now, but, or when I published both of those packages, but it's possible that the actual publish didn't work, so just making sure that this all functions as normal. Gotcha. Okay, so we're down to 15. So we cut the GraphQL query speed in half, I guess, which is kind of cool. We just ran it with the cache though, so that's not necessarily a true statement. Blah, reload the site, do this, remove this weird word that I inserted. Yeah, I'm much happier with that speed for sure. So I actually need to fork his site. And if you're not using Hub, it allows you to do things like git browse from the repo, and it'll just send you to the site, which is pretty dope. Are you using the new schema stuff, Ben, to do that? I would love to see that if you're using it. Fork. Forkity fork. This branch is even with kentcdodds master. Okay. So gonna move origin to upstream. Add me as origin. Package.jsonyarn.lock. Gonna check out this file so I don't need it. Gonna check to make sure that the only thing that I did here is upgrade MDX, which it is. Let's get a link to the gatsby-mdx commit that fixed this. It's not the latest commit, it's the commit before that. Yeah, one of the example projects has a bad dependency that I need to update. Why can I not remember how to get to the commits? I am totally blanking on something that is not that hard. Cool. Get the good link to it. gatsby-mdx, yeah, that's my next project, I guess. gatsby-mdx, fix a performance issue in 4.4. the performance is what people care about. Cool. So git push view origin fix gatsby HMR speed. Pre-commit. The precondition with Husky, yes. The things that I do with linting and stuff on my blog on gatsby-mdx are done with Husky, lint staged, and npm scripts basically. If I look at yeah, so these lint stage scripts all run, so it does all my formatting for me when I go to commit. And then the other thing is that on pre-commit I run that kind of stuff. Nice, Ben. That sounds great. It sounds much better than doing it client side. Cool. It's master. We should see this pop up. I wonder if I can get a link to the actual post-stream video from here. I don't think I can. But yeah, so that was a really good hour of work or so. Lannon's name is Ben. Yeah. Ha! Everybody's name is Ben, except for me. Cool, so that is a really nice thing. How many Bens do we have in chat right now? No, you are Chris. I am Chris, yes. I'm reading chat. Somebody just said that. Okay, cool. He probably doesn't need this on Twitter, but figure since he tweeted it out earlier, it'll be good to let other people know that this is actually fixed. Oh, he was live streaming while like 2 hours ago. That's funny. Wow, that was only a 4-hour turnaround on that. That's pretty funny. Cool. What else do we have here? Do we have anything maintenance-wise? We don't need to check that. This might be the next issue that we work on. Work in progress V1. Oh, cool. You put the PR up. Have the same broken body. Did I screw something up in my RSS? Dang. So it does. What did I do wrong? Huh. Should probably look into that. I don't know when I broke that. I've been doing a lot of stuff with my blog lately. I wonder if it broke when I moved to the new MDX 1.0 release. Also, that URL is wrong. All of those URLs are wrong. No! Damn. Yeah, the HTML field is a finicky one, because people that come from Gatsby Transformer Remark are using the HTML field, which means that if they miss one or they don't read the docs for gatsby-mdx, then they'll keep using the HTML field, and the HTML field doesn't work for application time queries. It only works for RSS feeds, which are done after all of the other builds happen. Specifically, it only works if we have the Webpack config. So let's take a look at that, actually, now that we've fixed one of Kent's issues. Because the HTML thing, I think Kent is also experiencing. So this is my blog. And the HTML stuff only runs when you run build. So let's do actually, I need to have my web tokens thing here. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm not, so I guess I won't go into my blog to do this. I'll go into gatsby-mdx to do this. So let's do the kitchen sink again. Actually, did I push all of this up? Cool. Let's do kitchen sink, develop. Blah, blah, blah. I'll also create a another issue here. Who caching cache. Currently we cache the entire GenMDX payload. We should cache each individual layer. And then we need to, right, so let's see. Let's check one of these MDX files. And the thing that we are going to check out is this, which looks like it's going to break. Thanks for the follow, Nightwalker. Yeah, so that is 0. There's nothing there. That is interesting. And it takes a really long time. Okay. Which means that if we do like all MDX on this, it'll break too. So let's find a better example. What else do we have here? Title unrelated to file name, some content. Looks like this will be just fine. MDX, ID, this maybe will work. ID query string. Do I need to do the eq? I don't remember. Cool. So that's that. So we have this one that we want now that might have some HTML output. But it's still empty. Okay, so I'm going to go into the... I'm going to run debug for sure. Okay, I can put this over here. We can get rid of this. Make it a little nicer. And then I'm going to run this HTML query and see why this is coming out as an empty string. Because there's no error. It just isn't doing what we want it to do. And this is actually like the most complicated feature in gatsby-mdx, I think. So it doesn't look like it's doing anything, really. That's not good. Let's get rid of Kent. Let's go. So it's not going to be this, it's going to be render HTML that's going to run. It runs in memory, which makes it a little slow. We have to do a bunch of stuff here to get this to work. I'll start console logging stuff out. What do we think? Log out that error just in case, and we'll run it again. Right. So we are getting the body that we need to render this thing. There's no error. I wonder if we should log out the contents of this file. You don't know what's happening. Okay, so what's happening here is that Gatsby will set up a GraphQL API that you can get your data from, right? And in gatsby-mdx, which is a plugin for Gatsby, we get to query this MDX data type. And in this case, we're just going and taking a specific node out of the system and returning it. And the issue here is that the HTML, so we can query subfields on MDX, right? So if I wanted to do this in a way that works, I could do front matter, and then I get like the title of the front matter, like the parent ID, some other front matter stuff that I have in one of the files. The issue is that when we run HTML, we get nothing. Like we get literally an empty string. So if you look at the bugs that this person filed, or well, this is a bunch of people are on this, but if you look at the RSS feed on my personal site, which is this, you see that in here we get what looks like, you know, like a wrapper around the entire application, but we don't get any data, like we don't get the application code. We don't get the content of the actual post. So like they have excerpts, but they don't have the actual content. And that's the problem. So the reason that we get the, okay, so basically all of that comes down to this file. And what this file does is it takes the body of an MDX node. So it basically takes an MDX file that is a React component now. It takes the Webpack config that we use for Gatsby, and then it replaces a couple of different things like the output, so that we generate a new file that is just the MDX, or just the HTML rendered version of that MDX file, with all of the Gatsby APIs having run around it. So somewhere in my site, my personal site, I have a wrap root element that wraps the entire site in this style tag. Which is why we get that. But the content of the HTML is an empty string. So that is not good. See, like there's no content here. And that is not good at all. It bugs me that it is returning an empty string and not like an error. So this is probably going to be a tricky bug. This is not good. So this code is the hardest to debug in the entire library. It does the most weird stuff. Damn. The MDX body is getting put in here to MDX content, so that's all fine. The other thing is that we set a new entry point, which is this. So this code is clearly working, I think, but the MDX renderer content thing is not. And I don't think I can log out in here, so I basically have to like guess. Thanks for the follow, Little Raunchy. Yeah, of course, if you ever have any questions about anything that I'm doing on stream, just feel free to put them in chat and I'll do my best. Yeah, so like, we don't get any information about why this is going wrong. But this is all the MDX body that we're putting into it, so it's doing something. It's just not doing what we want it to do. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to debug this. Log out the status object and see if that gives us anything interesting. So basically, why this is so hard to debug is that this is a Webpack process that I'm programmatically running with an in-memory file system. That is running with a plugin that basically compiles the static site inside of the Webpack process, which means that we basically don't get the console logs. Oh, what is this? This is a lot of stuff. What I'm going to do is, instead of logging that out, I'm going to write this out. And then we're going to cat it and see what it is. So I don't think I have FS in here, actually. And I can't use the FS, so FSS. The other thing that we can do is actually console.log fs.reader. Is that a lowercase d? I think it's reader sync. And see what the memory file system. So that's not actually a reader on the file system. We have the memory file system defined as fs. So when I do an fs.reader right here, what it's doing is it's looking at the in-memory file system. 1 second to 200 milliseconds. Yes, dope. So happy that works. Thanks for the follow, Ian. Output.text and index.html. What do you think output.text is? Somebody's mowing a lawn outside my apartment on the 9th floor in San Francisco. Let's get rid of this MDX body log because that's also being quite noisy. And we know it's working. In March, yeah, seriously. Okay, so output is a bunch of stuff. Output is the library that it uses to do this, maybe? Yeah, hue.js, Twitter equals components Twitter, sure. Twitter date picker, yeah. Yeah, so this is the entire site itself. So we actually don't care about that. So what we can do, what did I call this? And is it in utils? There we go. Cat, and then this. Okay, so no errors, no warnings in that Webpack build. The output for the library is output.txt, which is weird. I don't know why I chose that name. The actual file output that we care about is index.html, which is allegedly writing out as an empty string. A bunch of module information, which we don't care about, generally speaking. I don't know if I can go all the way to the end. This is a very, very large file, so it's going to take a little bit, but I'm not going to wait that long, because it only goes to modules, and we don't care about modules. Okay, so that was useless. I don't know. I'm running out of options for how to debug this. Stats object has nothing, no errors, no warnings. The error is actually null, so it doesn't matter. Are you doing unit tests for gatsby.org? That's cool. Man, I really am not sure how to debug this. That's the problem with writing code that is very clever. See, the wrappers get pulled in, that's fine. The MDX renderer gets pulled in, that's fine. The scopes get pulled in, that's fine. I can't get console logs here. But I think if I return stuff, if I return a string from here, it'll get written out into the content file. So we could do that. So let's handle our stuff like that. Thanks for the follow, Hetsku. Unit test, just React testing library, nice. E2E with Cypress, nice. Yeah, I need to do some E2E tests for the themes stuff, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. What the what? Oh. Okay, so that's good. At least it's giving us the... this is all the code and stuff. And not the pages directory. Yep, so that's the code that we want to see. So that's getting injected properly. I wonder if there's something wrong with the MDX renderer. Because we did change that reasonably recently. What could be wrong with this? is returning an empty string, so let's try this. Let's do blah blah blah, and then render to static markup. MDX renderer. And let's see what we have here. This will take in everything. Just do a create element with the resulting function. So I think that if I just return hi, that's fine and that will work. Yeah, I'm sure Kent will be happy that you're using React testing library. Okay, that wasn't the output that I expected to see, but you know, it's fine. So the MDX renderer looks like it's working. Why is this returning empty strings? I'm just going to try to get it to return an empty string by putting in sort of random content. Basically trying to reproduce the error. Okay, so that doesn't work like at all. So that's fine. Let's return MDX content again. And we'll copy that out, and then maybe we'll stick it in here and start modifying it and see what happens. Actually, first, let me put this in prettier so that I can actually handle it manually. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Going to replace all of the quotes with a regular quote, because replace, yes. Unicode escape sequence. What the? I thought that we already took care of that. Interesting that these are not, that these didn't get converted. It's weird that it's not finding that. There we go. There's a couple of these that we need to find and fix. Oh, so I basically just didn't okay, do we have any more? Looks like we have another one somewhere. None of that. Yeah, the gatsby.org site redesign has been going really well. I think that a lot of people that have been seeing the site and are just seeing it for the first time are really happy with the turnout, basically. Want the literal... Come on. There we go. I don't know if it's CJ or C-enter. I don't always remember how to use Sublime Text because it's not my main daily driver. How do I insert the... Yay, Stack Overflow. Find what, replace with that. I mean, that's okay. So if I turn on the regex, then I have to do this. And then I guess I can do that. So that should work. Cool, so now we have everything on a new line so that we can actually get it into prettier, which no longer has a problem with it. Of course, why would it have a problem with it? What do we have here? Do we have any backticks? No, we don't, so that's good. So we'll go back into our MDX renderer. We're just going to dump this in here, and we're going to start playing with it. Let's see, first of all, what this gives us. Has he not done a live stream on integrating search? I thought he had one up. Oh yeah, definitely send him a message then. I think that that would be super useful. I've actually never done search with Algolia, so I would watch that. Okay, something went wrong. Page layout is not defined. Cool. We can get around that. So I basically ripped out. So actually, take this all and just replace the other MDX renderer with it. And that'll give us everything that we need. Hey, thanks for the follow, Artemir. Okay, so that should give us something. Yeah, so that gives us the empty string. That's not cool. How does it return us an empty string, though? I don't think any of those are the problem. Here's front matter, here's page layout, layout props, function, React component, function, MDX content. Self-executing function, so that's fine. Then MDX content gets pulled up, right? It's gonna hoisted. There's MDX content equals this function that gets auto-executed and returns itself, I believe, right? Yeah, return MDX content. So we're getting that function. How this is turning into an empty string, I cannot fathom. Maybe we didn't wait long enough. The only other place that I can think of looking is the static site generator webpack plugin, which is a webpack plugin that is writing out this index file for us. So it is writing out an empty index file. I wonder if this got a version change. Doc search was one thing for OSS products to get free search capabilities. Yeah. Yeah, the weird thing for Algolia on the Gatsby site is that if you look at, so this is powered by Algolia 2. Oh, today it gets 3,000. Okay. So the last time I looked at this, and for like a long time now, it's been locked at 25,000. But if you look at like NPM trends for gatsby-mdx, like we're hitting 9,000 a week. So what? So that's like 8, 7, 4, 4, 6, 6, which is, I don't know. I feel like it's more than 28. But oh yeah, I mean, I'm super happy with this actually hitting like 9,000. Hopefully it continues to go up. That would be cool. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a time window on it or something. But look at this every once in a while to see how we're doing in the rankings, as it were. And we're almost beating the Gatsby 1.0 layout plugin, which is kind of cool. But yeah, as far as I know, that's powered by Algolia, and it's like a complete black box, and sometimes the README for gatsby-mdx will just not show up. So that's not great. So back to why this is returning nothing. Yeah, the docs on MDX are now officially in the Gatsby site, and so MDX.js MDX is going to go to 1.0 soon, and after that I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup on Gatsby MDX, and then I'm going to push it into the actual Gatsby repo. So yeah, soon it will be an official Gatsby multi-package repo project, and yeah. Yeah, I don't know about this problem though. This is really a stumper for me. Non-page with a custom layout. Yeah, that's an MDX tag thing. That's all good. I have to believe that's making the right, like that's doing the right thing. So it's got to be in this static site generator plugin. But path to asset. I forget where this actually writes out the asset. Because basically what this does is it wraps it in another exec and then runs it. I forget what they use for that. Evaluate. So the long and the short of this is that that code that we just saw, that's the entry, gets bundled into a library by Webpack. The library that Webpack bundles actually gets used in this Webpack plugin. The Webpack plugin will pull the bundle out of the Webpack dependency system and then evaluate it, run it, and see if it will give it a result. So I'm just going to start logging stuff out here. No, not prettier. Don't prettier everything. I don't know. Let's try that. I'm pretty grasping at straws here. I've done some work with this plugin before, but missing parenthesis after argument list. What does what? Oh, comma. Tackle with doc search when I was adding the feature of the library plugin and the plugin library, so you can see what plugins are official plugins in the Gatsby runner. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you know a lot more about doc search than I do then. Okay, so it's running that other code. I wonder if I can just run the other code and see what it dumps. So let's see, we have the output here. fs.write file sync output.js output. So at least we'll get this file that we can then sort of play with outside of the Webpack thing, and we don't have to keep running this query. That failed on something. What did that fail on? I don't know, it could even possibly be that the memory file system is not doing this correctly, you know? Because yeah, it failed before it wrote it out. Dang. Invalid argument. Let's keep that away. Why do we suddenly have invalid argument? Because we didn't have that before. Oh boy, now we have an actual problem. Render HTML.js 62. What do you mean invalid output? What even is invalid argument? This is supposed to be a string. Oh no. Yeah, I tried to write to the memory file system instead of the actual file system. Okay, so that's that. And then we have this. Oops, that was a mistake. Window is not defined. I don't care. Just like make it an empty object. Fine. Oh no, this is gonna be a single giant line, isn't it? No, we're good. It is a very large file though. Oh, don't prettier that. No, don't prettier that. Shit. That is entirely too much file to run prettier on. Webpack hot update, really? I thought making this a object would be enough. Okay, so the output is nothing. Is one of the issues, I think. That's MDX itself. This is the scopes in the renderer. So this is probably where we want to be looking. Alright, well, this is going to take me a lot more time to actually figure out. Thanks for the follow, Madison. Or Medic. Is that Medic in? Because this code is just, yeah. So my thought here is that this code is actually not returning anything, so that when it gets evaluated, the result of the evaluation doesn't actually because the issue here is that we basically built an entire massive application that has to return an HTML string, but the application is not running. Render paths, crawl, compilation, notify. Man, I hate when you think done is an actual promise, or it's notify is a Bluebird thing, right? I really don't like promise code. Convert promised code to use node style callbacks. So if I notify promise, so notify is used on a promise. So notify takes a promise and a callback. Call notify directly, passing the promise, and an optional callback. As arguments callback is provided, it will be called as a callback. If callback is not a function, promise is returned. So we're returning the done promise, maybe? Let's do this. Let's check to see if this is a promise. If it is, we should be able to log out the value here and then return it, and we shouldn't actually mess up anything. Did I log out? I did. Oh my. Oh, that is You always make the most embarrassing mistakes when you're on stream. Why'd you have to scrap it? A multi-dimensional array of undefined? What? No. That could be the issue. What? So why would this be undefined like that? So the answer has to be in the MDX code, is what I've come down to. It has to be here. I don't know how to full screen this. Yeah, so it has to be in here. This has to be the thing that is the issue. I'm not entirely sure why it's an issue. But it is definitely an issue. Create class, inherits, blah, 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 MDX content. So I think we can just rip this out. It doesn't have a use yet. Well, you know, sometimes you gotta write some code to figure out what your problems actually are. So let's do this. Let's take this file. Let's save it as something somewhere. Where's my temp folder? So new folder, let's call this new folder temp MDX renderer problems. So what I've done is I've just taken the code that's going into that wrap root element and I just pulled it out and I put it into a new file, and now I'm going to initialize a new project around it, include React. I don't think there's anything else in here that I need to run this other than faking my way through MDX tag and stuff. Well, maybe I should just import MDX tag. Okay, so those are those things. If I run index, if I type correctly and then I run index, page layout is not defined. Is page layout important to this somehow? Not really. Do we actually not even use page layout? No, we do use page layout, so let's define page layout. So everything I'm going to do is going to be like page layout equals some function that doesn't do anything with a react.create element div. Div props, I guess, because we want to keep everything. React is not defined. Yes, that's accurate. So we need React and MDX tag. Where are we? There. I don't know if this is a destructure or not. I'm going to try it like this. So that's not what I want. There we go. Node. So run it again. It doesn't do anything. This could be our issue. So it doesn't do anything. So let's do this. It's supposed to be the body of a function. It's not even logging that out. Is that the issue? Is there some kind of weird... That's bizarre. Okay, what is going on there? I'm now very confused. Yes, okay, we are not reaching the end of this for some reason. Oh, we're returning, that's why. Never mind. Because all of this is supposed to be allegedly inside of a function call. Right, so it's technically new function, so if I do like function thing, right, like this is the thing that's supposed to do, but why is that returning before that? Like that should be there. Okay, so now let's run this. MDX content is not fine, that's fine. We're gonna run thing. Let's see what that gives us. And it gives us a function that is a React component. So let's do this. Cannot call classes function. So if we do, let's see, React DOM I think is what we need here. This rendered string. I don't think this will work on its own, but I'm just going to try it just to keep up. Rendered to string is not a function. What did I do wrong there? Let's try. Oh, because, okay, yeah, sure. Because I forgot that they swapped that out. Okay, so that's still not returning anything for me, which means that this probably needs to be okay, so that gives us a thing. I don't really know what this tells us, because this is what's supposed to be happening in the renderer. So if we look at the, let's get rid of this, what's the output? Let's get rid of that. What's supposed to be happening in the renderer is that it takes that thing, it puts it in a function like we just did. So this new function here is this thing function. So everything in here is supposed to be a function body which goes in here. This function then gets called in the same way that we called it down here. After it gets called, we react.create element. So when we return that, we should have a component that comes out of this, and that component should return the value of everything. So that should all work, and it is actually working. The only problem is that I don't know where we're losing it. Alright, well, this is going to take me more time, a lot more time. So I'm going to go get some dinner. I'm going to kill the stream there. But thanks everyone for hanging out. And I will try to do this more often because I do enjoy doing it. See you around, man. Yeah, I will, for sure.